Hey everyone. Well, you've heard the series of episodes that we've done describing Church OS and the biblically based system that has been built to really help you and your church activate the Great Commission and see greater kingdom impact in your church. We wanted to take just a few minutes to talk about some next steps about how intentional churches can partner with you. And so we're just going to take a couple of minutes to talk about what opportunities are there, because our heart is to come alongside you, to partner with you, and really see everything that God has placed in your heart become reality in your church and in your community. So, Bart, would you just talk a little bit about intentional churches and the journey and kind of where we're at right now?
Sure. Yeah, it's been an amazing, a little over a decade we've been working on this. And just a couple of things to know about us as you think about engaging. I did a life plan. You did a life plan, right?
Yep.
And basically told me that church was going to be it was in the bullseye of my passion, period. So it's always going to be about church. And I would say that's true of intentional churches, that it's about church and church leadership. And so over this past decade, back in the day, I should start with, God gave us this vision that we didn't really want to be a consulting outfit. We wanted to be more, as we've been talking about, a training and resource platform. And God's letting that emerge. And so quickly, when we began to figure out how we were going to install and coach this with churches, we gathered up our friends, a lot of them church leaders, and still to this day, our church certified coaching team has grown to over 60, maybe close to 70 coaches, and the majority are church leaders in churches. So there's a deep church DNA on our team, and they're running the Church West playbook and running on the platform. The majority are, in so much as they can. And so we're learning from them all the time. And so if we were to work with anyone personally, they're going to end up with, I think we have an average of 17 or 20 years on our team in church leadership. It's amazing.
It's over 20 now.
It's kind of amazing set of church leaders. Per coach, right. And so that's kind of good to know. And then we've worked with I think it's right around 20 denominations.
Wow.
And types of churches from different tribes, right? Some are network churches, some have straight up denominations like the United Methodist Church, and others. And then we've also worked with, I want to say, probably three, I don't know what the current today is, it's 325, right around the number of churches that we've worked with. And we've worked with all sizes. One of my favorite stories is a church of 25 that we installed and began to work together, and they were learning the system. And the next year we baptized 25 people in that church of 25. And we work with them to get a senior pastor in there. That's one of my favorite.
Those are the fun ones.
I think my favorite stories are those type stories.
Yeah.
But we also have, like, I forget the number, Doug, you might know, of on the outreach fastest growing list and largest list, and it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a couple dozen or something like that.
Yeah, and they're in various stages of running and learning the system too. So that's us, and God. It's all a God story, and it's really been through relationships that's occurred, and one pastor telling another, and we're going a little more with the book and stuff public, if you would, and you can learn more at the website about our background, and glad to send a reference list in, but that it's the story God's building in us, and to be honest, wake up every day kind of amazed by it.
I love it that you guys are church guys. You're personally passionate about the one, and your heart really, especially where intentional churches is at now, is how do we really scale this to see more churches be more effective and more impact. So this isn't about keeping this closed-handed. This isn't about creating a dependency. This isn't about being the experts who swoop in and tell you what's wrong with your church and will help you do what's right. This is about getting back to biblically based principles. So just such a different heart than I've seen in so many different places. Doug, would you just talk a little bit about what are some steps for the pastor or church leader who's listening right now who goes, I'm ready to take a step?
Yeah, I think if you made it to this point, I'm going to kind of let you self-decide, like opt in of where you think you might be. And let's use the analogy of crawl, walk, run. And so which one are you ready for? Is your team ready for? I'm going to start with run because we call it the gold standard of all that we do for a very good reason. It's not an arrogance or a prideful thing. But doing a full lap one, which is usually we would come in and spend an entire year with you. You'd have a coach that's on the ground with you 4 times. We do a 2-day with your team, with a couple of our team in the room. I mean, it would be a full-on experience with email and video and phone support. And so we say gold standard of the Lap 1. And we just learned early on some important principles. Bart, will you kind of talk about why we've called it the gold standard and why when we tried not to do it this way, what happened?
Well, there's a couple of things. We've tried everything, right? We tried medium, short-term engagements and training experiences and 2 month, 6 month, 1 year. And we found years ago that we've also tried different like pricing models and stuff like that. And we just decided simple is better, that the best thing we knew was working was to work close with the team for a year and come up with a pretty simple flat fee type modeling that you could engage. And that's where we're going to stick with. And that's been the bread and butter of what we've done for years, how we've learned. What we've learned, it's where we gained the insights that we put into the book. It's educated our team. It is the thing that we've built intentional churches on. However, God laid on our heart in the beginning a vision that we would see 1,000 churches. Our first vision was 1,000 churches on the platform with 1 million lives in the sites of evangelistic sites of those churches, and that we would be learning, collaborating, and celebrating together. And so we're on the road to that, but yet we also know that we have to have different ways to engage this. And so like Doug is laying out, it can't just be the run option, which is the Lap 1 intentional growth plan. But we do believe it is still probably the best way. It's the way we know best to help a church.
It's kind of the fullest expression. So it starts with the 2-day. You've got a facilitated team, self-discovery team process that's guided, and then you've got a coach for a year that's really walking alongside of you, making sure. And also for those churches who might be listening, who say, "Man, it's been a few years since we've done a Lap 1." It may be time to go back and do a second lap. It may be something to come back and re-engage in that process. And you're not going to get everything on the first lap. I mean, if this truly is changing the way you think about your church and operationalizing everything, we do our best in that year to get you going. But it is really the fullest expression of that.
Yeah, and I'll say just one thing before we move on to the other options, that after we've done a year together, we open many other options up, because at the end of that year, when we're assessing your progress and your understanding of what we've been teaching and what you're learning and how you want to implement, we discern different things are needed at that point. So whether it's more time with our coach or whether it's another 2-day, refreshing of everything and deeper learning, advanced, we call it Lap with us, then we'll do that. But so in other words, after the year, you're in the tribe, and now we have a lot of ways to work together. But the access to all of that comes through that first year together. Yep.
Yeah, so kind of the second one would be a walk, and we have a couple of options there. And by the way, we didn't say this earlier. We have been in a real hyper learning mode the last 24 months, where I would say if you'd done a Lap 1 prior to the last probably 12 to 18 months, you would still recognize much of what we do, but it's very much designed from a different angle and a full operating system look that you can run your entire church by. So the walk side, one of the things you could do to walk would be to come to live, what we call activator training. That's the internal champion, the person who's going to drive Church OS in your local church. We usually run that a couple of times a year in Las Vegas. And then the second piece is we were in process of this already before COVID, but we accelerated with COVID. And that is we released in May what's called the Activate Experience. And it takes you through many of the conversations in the book. It's meant to walk hand in hand with the book. And it is a very dynamic learning online environment where there's study guides and teaching videos in addition to what's in the book. It teaches further how you could self-facilitate some of these conversations along with templates and various other things. And we also do some coaching digitally that's included with that. So that would be two options: Activate Experience and then activator training, which would be a live environment here in Las Vegas that you could come learn that.
Yeah.
And we're testing this idea of training. This was a real pivot for us. I mean, you heard Bart describe early on. We recruited a bunch of our friends in ministry who came, and our model has shifted. The coaches going into the future, our coaches now are outstanding, but our coaches in the future, we see more and more. Our training is now designed around you as the internal champion. How do you run this and be successful at it? It's not just about drawing the charts, and it's more about how do I make this a way of life for my team. And so the training is really new in the last 4 or 5 months, in that we have shifted to that mindset. And so we're offering it as a walk option, whereas before we didn't. You want to talk a little bit about the...
Well, let me just mention on this front. When we began, we just committed, Doug and I did, that we weren't going to do much other than what would really help. And again, we discerned the lap one, and so was the best way. So again, with the digital experiences, we're monitoring, can you really self-implement? Can you really get off the ground and learn this as an activator, use the book, use the material, maybe take next steps after that? And I think in the next year, we're going to really learn. But it's the heart behind it has always been that what we know works would really work. So even we've been asked to do short workshops and stuff various places, and we're a little bit reluctant because we just don't feel like a 45-minute, session is going to basically get you very far, except maybe interested in what we're up to. So that's the Activate experience got a lot of full of intention of that you would be able to self-implement behind it. And so we need to hear, if people try that, we need to hear about their experience.
And what's the last step?
Yeah, so Crawl, you guys, we referenced it earlier in the episodes. We have study guides available. So the book for sure, and study guides with the book for your team, staff team or volunteer leadership team, as well as one designed specifically for your board or your elders. That could be a Crawl step. And then also we're in the digital platform. We are now releasing a couple of smaller digital experiences that are more simplified than the Activate experience, which is, 25 videos. I mean, it's very robust inside of it. Yeah. These smaller ones are more designed to crawl into your ChurchOS experience.
Just some baby steps into ChurchOS.
It's growing your way into it. So those three things.
Did you mention the website? I know they can get from intentionalchurches.com, but we have that at its own domain too, churchosonline.com.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
So they can access those directly at that website.
Yeah, so if you want to find out about those digital experiences, churchosonline.com and intentionalchurches.com is going to have, that's the headquarters for all of it.
Yep.
As we close our time, Doug and Bart, would you just share kind of our vision for the pastor or leader or church who's listening? What's our heart there?
Yeah, I think we've gotten a lot of clarity around this of late, and we've always said it, but I think just as clearly as we've ever said it, we're here to help you intentionally mobilize your 99s, your people in your church, to go reach and grow their ones.
That's good.
And the way in which we do that, we do it by aligning in thinking and methodology your leadership and eventually all the way through your congregation to these fundamentals and basics of Great Commission. And then the way we do it is this idea of ChurchOS, an operating system meant to return double impact again and again and again. And so that's really what we're here to do and cheer you on. And that's how we perceive getting to thousands of churches, eventually reaching all their communities. I mean, we've given our life's work to it. Love it. I'm a one myself. I was one late in high school. And it's an honor to do it. I don't know if you'd add anything.
No, just privileged to work alongside so many awesome churches. I feel like we get the benefit of our church leadership family growing and growing and growing. And every team we work with becomes like family.
Yeah.
You saw that at the church we just worked with. So
that's right.
Just love to get to know church leaders and onboard those leaders into this great thing that's emerging, and excited to meet you folks.
Amen. Thank you so much for listening. We hope to connect with you soon and find out how we can help your church. We'll talk to you soon.